And let's just, before we start, is there anything that you don't want to talk about? Is there anything that you would like to stay away from? I mean, I
Uh,
always say that if I ask anything that you don't feel comfortable answering, please tell me in the moment so that I can edit that out. Um, I don't foresee that happening with the questions I have prepared, but in the event that it does, just feel free to say, Julia, I would rather not talk about that.
no, nothing's off limits for me.
Okay, awesome. So let's just start with, what was your childhood like? Because
Oh,
you were immigrating from Lebanon, you were born without legs. What kind of childhood did you have?
well, shockingly, a very good one. I really enjoyed my childhood. So I guess I was lucky that my parents decided that they had the choice between a special needs school and a mainstream school. And what they decided was that just because I had a physical impairment, they realized that I had a lot of potential. So they wanted me to be independent and kind of think by myself. So I went to a mainstream school that had no facilities for disabled people. They had loads of stairs, no ramps, no lifts, and they said, "Right, go and adapt because that's life." So yeah, like I felt that was normal at the time, but obviously looking back, I'm like, that wouldn't be for health and safety. That school would not have accepted me, but they did back then. But I guess what it did was it kind of like made me get through things quite easily. So um, what it also did for me was that I was so confident in my ability that nobody teased me about my disability. I was always in the popular group. I was one of the popular kids in school, so I was quite lucky.
And how did that build your confidence? Because on the surface, you were kind of not the same as the other kids you were going to school with. I mean, it wasn't really a secret, something that you had to hide because
Yeah,
you wanted to be popular.
I think it wasn't about being popular. I think it was obviously I knew that I had no legs compared to everybody else. So I was the only disabled person in school, and I guess that made me popular just for that reason. Um, but I think what it made a lot of the kids realize is that just because I was disabled, it doesn't mean I couldn't do anything they were doing. In fact, I was, like playing football with them at playtime and lunch times and doing well in school academically. And I was getting involved in like physical education lessons. So yeah, I was very, very sporty. And I think they saw the potential of someone with no legs and they thought, actually, he's normal. We don't have to treat him any differently. In fact, he's normal, but actually he's got a few gifts that we haven't. And I think that's what made it like quite easy for me.
Did that make you work any harder, or were you just trying to compete at the same level, do you think?
To be fair, it wasn't about actually competing. I think it was I just wanted to. I think my parents always installed in me to always try to reach my potential, no matter what. It wasn't about competing against others. It was about kind of finding my own way to what potential looks like for me. And I obviously, from a very young age, wanted to go to the Paralympic Games, and that's what I wanted. And I thought, right, how am I going to get there, and what path am I going to take? And that's what drove me to be better within myself.
So you were talking about football just kind of recreationally in gym class and recess. Did you play any other sports prior to finding powerlifting?
Yeah, so when I was like really little, it was all about football. So I was soccer in the US, I guess. Obviously, I played in goal because I had no legs. So I was a goalie. And because it was five-a-side, the goals were a little bit smaller, so I could reach the top. Obviously, it'll be a problem if it was full-size goals because obviously I've got no legs, so I can't jump. Um, but yeah, like I did like athletics, and when I was 11, that was my first real love of sport in terms of at most competitive level. So I did judo for 4 years, and that was the sport that I thought was going to get me to the Paralympic Games, but it obviously wasn't.
So why did you think that that was the sport that would get you on an international stage?
Because I was really good at it. When I was competing, I was doing very well, like going to competitions every couple of weeks nationally, but also winning major championships at junior level for age group internationally. So I actually was really, really good. So when I was 11, I gave up kind of 4 days a week after school to train, plus balance my school studies on top. And yeah, I generally thought it was going to be the sport that was going to take me to the games. But unfortunately, when I was 15, we found out that, because obviously I was born with no legs, there was no classification for me in judo at the Paralympic Games. It's only for visually impaired and blind, so I had to actually quit judo. But that was heartbreaking, not being able to get that.
How did the judo to powerlifting transition happen? Was it suggested to you, or were you looking for something else?
To be honest, I actually kind of decided that potentially there'll be my kind of Paralympic dream was no more. So my parents, from a kind of Arabic background, they were very like academically driven, especially with somebody who like was disabled. They wanted me to use my brain and not sport. They thought there was no money in sport at the time. So when I quit judo, I concentrated on my final year exams. And I think in America, I think it's graduation year, senior year. That was my senior year. So I was kind of working just to get like the best grades possible. But it was actually one of them, after one of them exams, my friend kind of suggested we go to the gym across the road from the school, a gym that I've never been to before, or I've never lifted weights in my life. I didn't really want to go because didn't think gym was for me. But he kind of forced me to go with him because I think he wanted like support. And yeah, got to the gym, and on my first ever day there, I managed to bench press 100 kilo, which I think is probably like 210, 220 pounds. For somebody that was 15, that had never gymmed in his life, apparently that was quite good.
Do you ever talk to that friend? Like when you were going to the Paralympic Games and winning the world championship, did you ever reach back out to that friend and be like, you helped me? Like you got this started?
It's so weird because we lost like contact after school, but we kind of like sporadically like message each other. And obviously before every major championship, it was like, remember how it started. He always does remind me of like when it was him. But I guess that day in the gym, I did get spotted by the owner of the gym. And that's where it all came to start, really.
That's amazing. So that was age 16.
Yeah, it was 2005. So yeah, quite a long time ago.
And then how did you figure out where to go now that you had a sport? I mean, how did you get recognized by the Paralympic Committee, who then said, we'll take you in?
Yeah, so the way it works in the UK is you get kind of spotted by like a coach in the gym maybe, and then you kind of train by yourself without no support network in terms of like national team. And then obviously you start competing at national competitions, and then you get spotted, right, if you do well. And what happened was that the owner of the gym used to be the national coach 20 years ago. So he was a very old man with a lot of experience, so he can see talent. I didn't want to pursue powerlifting. I didn't think it was for me, especially when I found out what I had to lift just to qualify for the Paralympics. So I had to, obviously I lifted 100 kilo on my first day, but just to get to the games and my body weight, I needed to like lift 180 kilo. Now for a 16-year-old looking at that thinking, that's 80 kilo more than I'm doing now, so nearly double. And apparently the powerlifting is an old person sport because it takes so long to develop strength levels at that sort of level. So I didn't know if I wanted to commit to a sport where it's going to take me 7 years just to make the games. They convinced me that, I've got a lot of talent and I should come back. And yeah, I was lucky that within 18 months, I was at the Paralympic Games. We did it.
That's crazy. So then work me kind of through what your parents said to you when you approached them and said, I want to try powerlifting at a serious level.
Yeah, it was weird for them because my dad thought it was just a phase of me just going to the gym. They didn't even think it was competitive. They thought, well, he's 16, he probably wants to look good for the girls, so he's going to go to the gym every day. And yeah, my dad came to like pick me because obviously like the gym was like opposite the school, so I just go to the gym by myself, but I did picking up afterwards. So my dad would always pick me up from the gym, thinking that it was just somebody going to the gym, not realizing what I was actually doing. And when I suggested that I think it could take me to the games, well, they said, "What about college? You still have to go and get the grades," and they still demanded that from me. So I did both.
And where did you get your education from?
So college, I went to Woodhouse College, which was one of the top colleges in the country at the time. So you had to have really good grades to get in. I was lucky from my background to get in. And then I got educated at university at Leeds Beckett University. That's where I graduated from. And now I'm doing a PhD. So yeah, it's been quite a progressive journey educationally.
And we'll circle back to the PhD at the end. But before we go there, can you talk to me about what happened in London 2012?
Yeah, I think probably the most controversial moment of my career. Basically, a controversial refereeing decision to deny me a medal that day. I still don't know what truly happened. I guess when you're in it, you don't really know what was said and how it was said and what decision was made. But yeah, unfortunately, going into the last lift, I had to get it to win a silver. But I lost the bronze on bodyweight. So bodyweight meaning that I was the heavier man, but lifted the same. So lifted the same as the bronze medal, but the guy was lighter than me. But my last lift should have been a lift. If you look at the context of what lifts were given that day, I still believe that. So yeah, it was just a controversial refereeing decision, and I had to accept it.
And then when you were going to the Paralympic Games in 2008 and you got ill the night before, did you recognize or realize the shift that your life was about to take?
Not really. I just thought it was just like the thing is that the Paralympic village is quite big, but you're there with different cultures, different countries, different routine, different food. And you try keep a sense of normality of how you lived in the UK. But unfortunately, with that many athletes in a confined area, you are going to get a few bugs, just how it is. And I just thought that, you know what, I got unlucky, got a bug, and I'll learn from it. I'm only young, it's my first games, and I was never expected to medal for my first game. So I was there for the experience. And yeah, I genuinely thought it was just a bug. Didn't realize what was about to happen when I got back.
Well, you still finished 9. I mean, that's hardly a disappointing finish, but at the same time, it paved the way for the rest of your life. I mean, then you had part of your intestines removed in 2010,
Yep.
and you continued to compete in powerlifting events. How did the Crohn's disease diagnosis change the way that you prepared for the rest of your performances?
So obviously, when I came back from Beijing, I got diagnosed with Crohn's 9 months later. Now I didn't know what Crohn's disease was at the time. I just thought like, give me some medication, I'll be on my way. Not thinking how it was going to change me. And when the consultant said, this is about to change your life and you can't cure it, and you need to really seriously consider about your career because the disease is so unpredictable that you just don't know when you're going to flare, no matter what you do to prevent it. And also the side effects of the medication. The medications are very, very, they're not great for you. And they haven't really got much data back then on athletes with Crohn's at that sort of level. So when I did my research, yeah, like no Crohn sufferer had ever won a medal at any Olympic or Paralympic Games at the time. So I knew I was in for I knew it was going to be difficult. And the best finish, I think, from a Crohn sufferer was 10th. And I think it was an American rower. So I kind of watched her on YouTube and she kind of said that if it wasn't for Crohn's, Crohn's didn't like allow her to reach her potential. And I realized that actually this is quite serious now. And this is going to be an uphill struggle. But the way I prepared for it was, well, we couldn't base it on science because there's no science out there at the time. So I had to become my own guinea pig. So it was trial and error, trial and error, trial and error until we got some sort of stability.
And then while you were working through that diagnosis and process, you're also subsequently training for more world championships, more Paralympic Games. How did you manage that? And did it take as much of a mental toll as it did a physical toll?
I think the physical toll is worse, in terms of what you go through in terms of having to train at that sort of level, but also trying to manage symptoms on a daily basis. Your body is always tired. It's always in pain. There's always something wrong with it, because you're not supposed to push yourself to that extreme with a condition that, is, it's tough to deal with. So it was hard to kind of balance the symptoms of Crohn's with the medication on top, and then having a training program that's going to get you to that sort of level. It was very painful at times, but I think what I wanted to prove was actually like, you can push it to the limit and still get there. But I wouldn't suggest that anyway. That was just me. I would never, do not take my medical advice. Trust me, I've taken too many risks.
How do you think that fighting through Crohn's made you a more competitive athlete?
I think if you can kind of, what it did was it kind of made me compete in an easier way. A competition became like the easy part, but actually getting to that competition was the hardest part, because you're kind of fighting for your health on a daily basis. So I felt that I could kind of deal with any challenging competition quite easily, because I'm under pressure to live every day. So it became this kind of, I don't know, you became resilient on a daily basis, and that became your norm. So in competition, it's easy because actually you're there to enjoy it. You've got there, you've managed to get there kind of unscathed, and you're there just to enjoy it, and hopefully put in a performance that justifies all the work you've done. So actually it made me way more resilient.
That is a really interesting perspective, especially with everything that you had already gone up against. Did you talk to anyone about this process? I mean, did you have anyone that you could reach out to work through the bad days?
So I guess when I was a bit younger, I kept it all to myself, because my parents are really, well, they're really stressing over little things, and I'm someone that kind of finds a solution to any obstacle. So if there's an obstacle, I'm like, you know what, I just have to adapt and go on with it, and there's no complaining, because complaining wastes time, and I've got no time to waste. Unfortunately, the people around me were a little bit more, let's just say, hesitant with what I was doing. So I pulled myself away, lived away from home, because I wanted that space. And I was lucky that with the national team, you get all the support possible. So we started doing things very scientifically, monitoring me, my symptoms, training programs, how I felt on a daily basis. So we adjust the training programs accordingly. So I had the best support in the national team to make sure we did it from a data-driven kind of path rather than how I felt.
How important was that to your eventual success? I mean, looking back on that, how helpful do you feel that was?
It was a masterstroke, because I think before 2012, it wasn't really that scientific with me. It was just, you train hard, you get through your symptoms, and you just get on with it. Where kind of after 2012, we sat down and said, right, how can you now reach your potential of a condition that seems to get worse? So they found me the best medication, the best consultants, the best nutritionists, sports scientists, physios, and they all worked together to come up with a big plan. And obviously after 2012 was pretty much my successful period for 3 years. I guess that proved that science does work.
And then, have you ever worked with a sports psychologist? I mean, was there a sports psych on staff with the aforementioned group that you worked with?
Yeah, very good. Well, we had a very good sports psych, and I think it's weird. I never really worked with him on performance-based weaknesses, because I was so kind of experienced and set in what I did. It was never about my performance. It was all about me as a person, kind of interacting with humans, kind of just be a better human. And that's what it kind of taught me. Just what is, forget Ali the athlete. What is Ali? Yeah, so it was more of a human aspect rather than a performance aspect, because when you're at that sort of level for that sort of period, you kind of are set in your ways and you've experienced everything. You don't really need much help when it comes to mentally preparing for that sort of level.
So what were you already doing on your own that you think worked so well?
I think having Crohn's so early on meant, as I said, like it got you resilient on a daily basis. So competition became the easy part. There was no pressure in comp. The pressure was actually getting through the days unscathed with no symptoms, or if there are symptoms, we kind of get through them. So my kind of mental training happened every day because it had to. It was the only way to get through it. So I was very like robust and resilient, and like before I competed. So I didn't need any more psychological help from a performance point of view, because that was the enjoyable bit. That was the fun bit.
And then when you were winning world championships in 2014, and then European championships in 2015, and then going to the Paralympic Games and winning a silver in 2016, I mean, you were on a crazy roll those 3 years.
Yeah, that was still my best period ever. I think it was incredible because after 2012, I wanted to quit and retire completely. But obviously got convinced to come back, and it was justified. I think because we did things so differently within that cycle, in terms of everything was more data-driven and scientific, it just gave me a chance. And things, I think the underlying thing was, if they can just get me healthy, I'm talented enough to pull it off. And yeah, I had 3 years of, probably, probably the best 3 years of my career.
And then when you first won the gold in 2014 in Dubai, what kind of leap did that give you emotionally to say, I can really do this at a high level?
I think so. There was one thing as a kid that I always got from people, and that was, Ali's got loads of potential. The issue that I had was I never really achieved that potential back then. And I think when I got my new coach, he said, I'm sick and tired of that word potential in you. When are you going to show that potential? When are we going to get out of you? And I think 2014 justified, like, one, why I carried on, but it also meant that I felt like I could be the first Crohn sufferer to do this at the Paralympic level, to actually win a medal, knowing that obviously in 2009, like I got told to completely retire because no one's ever done it. So it gave me the confidence of actually dreaming of actually doing it.
And then Hungary in 2015, you won a gold medal. Did that even further solidify why you were here?
Yeah, I think as an athlete, you're always remembered on your major championship wins. And obviously in 2014, the World Championships, I got gold, and then at the Commonwealth Games, which is another major championship that we have for Team England, I broke the world record there. So I was actually flying, and I think the Paralympic Games in 2016, it was the one medal that I didn't have in my collection. That was the one major I didn't have. So winning the Europeans was a step to try and get the full set. And that's what I kind of thought about after the Europeans. Obviously, it was a good win, but I felt like I'm one medal away from completing the whole set, and that was the aim.
And then you completed the whole set in 2016.
Luckily, yeah, finally.
When you were on the podium, what were you thinking?
Probably like a mixed bag, because the performance itself wasn't my best performance. Considering what shape I was in, I was probably in the best shape I've ever been. So that performance was a little bit disappointing. But I guess that was probably my fault, because I guess I kind of just wanted a medal. I didn't really care about the performance. Especially after what happened in 2012, where you can probably argue my performance in 2012 was a better performance in Rio. But obviously I came fourth there. So going into it, I knew I was in great shape, but I just wanted a medal. Didn't really care like how I did it, how I got there. People won't remember the performance. I guess I felt like, I was finally free from the ghosts of London, in terms of, kind of burying them. And also, yeah, completing the Grand Slam and major championships is good too. But yeah, I think, that performance could have been a lot better than what it was.
And it still earned you a silver medal.
Well, I think to put into perspective, even at my very best, I never would have won that day. The guy in gold was too good, so it didn't really matter what I lifted that day. I was never going to beat him. So I guess that's a kind of the light in terms of that performance. But yeah, I guess I kind of had like conflicting views on that day.
And then talk me through the process of preparing for Tokyo, which just happened in 2021.
Yeah, that process was probably the hardest process of them all. I generally thought that I'd probably gotten through a lot of the hard stuff pre 2012, not realizing that after Rio, that was probably going to be me at my best probably forever. Not thinking what was going to happen next. So when I came back from Rio, I think after a few months, I had the biggest flare up of my Crohn's I've ever had. Didn't compete for 18 months, like really, really sick, thinking that potentially my career was probably over. And then we tried different medications and things just weren't working. And then in late 2018, we kind of had two options on the table. One was a stoma bag to be inserted, and the other one was a stem cell trial, which lasted about a year, that required some medium to aggressive chemotherapy. But with both options, I had to probably retire. There's no way back with them options. And obviously I felt like, I had a few questions that I had to think about before I kind of made the choice. And that was, have I kind of done enough in my career to walk away happy with what I've done? Two, do I think I could do well in Tokyo if I pushed it? But also at the same time, if I do push it, how much worse am I going to get? And that was the danger. Like we were talking about, if potentially it could get fatal. Even potentially, that's what I was pushing at. So I went home, and within 24 hours, I decided what I was going to do. I decided that I think a medal would have been impossible to get in Tokyo anyway, with what I was going through, like physically. But I wanted to kind of do it on my terms. When I was kind of when I got diagnosed with Crohn's, I promised myself that Crohn's wouldn't be the reason I retired, or be the reason that I carried on. But it also meant that going out on my terms and not its terms. So I went back to the consultant and said, I want to go to Tokyo, so I'm going to delay these options, and we're going to try find another medical route, which has never been done before at this level. Very risky at the time. Very kind of didn't realize how hard it was going to be in terms of what my body was going to go through, how frustrated we were going to get, and didn't realize how much I was going to deteriorate in the 2 years leading up to the games. And it became of kind of knowing that, accepting that I was never going to medal, and actually fighting just to qualify. And qualifying for me had to be my medal if I got there. And it was very touch and go until the last qualifying event.
When was that last qualifying event?
In Georgia in May.
Okay.
Yeah, so Georgia in Europe, not in America. So yeah, that was my best performance since Rio, that just to qualify. And to put into perspective, I benched 190 kilo in Rio for a silver, and just to qualify, I benched 170 kilo, so I was way down. But the fact that I made it after everything that's happened, for me was good enough. But yeah, it was very tough.
And then you got there and it was still a top 10 finish,
Yeah, I promised.
considering everything you had just been through.
Well, I said to a lot of people I didn't want to come last. I came sixth. So actually, considering what happened to me, pretty good. Obviously not like, when I was my best, but my body's been on such a negative transformation since Rio that sometimes eventually you run out of wild cards, and I did.
And then why did you get the nickname the Showman? I mean, where did that come from?
Yeah, so I'm someone that kind of celebrates a lot if I do well. They're quite animated celebrations. I guess the commentator thought that would be a fitting name to something that's quite animated, and that's stuck to a lot of people. So yeah, like I think I'm fortunate that she gave me that name, because now that's what I'm like remembered for. But yeah, I'm always quite animated on the platform.
And then at what point did you say, I have to retire now? I mean, like after Tokyo, were you just like, did you go back to that consultant and say, okay, now I'm ready?
Funny you should say that. We're having a meeting in about 2 days to see what's going to happen to me medically. So when I came back, I thought to myself, you're only 32. You're very young for the sport, because it's a very old man sport. People retire in their 40s. And if you look at the numbers that won gold in Tokyo, my performance in Rio would have won it. It would have won. So I've always known I was good enough to win it. I just have to be healthy. Now, what I've decided to do is not make a rash decision. Have a break from Paralympic competition for a year. And focus on my health solely and see if we can find a solution. But I won't make that decision until I know that I'm healthy, and two, that I'm consistently feeling okay before I make that decision. So I think by the middle of next year, I'll make that decision for either way.
So you had said that the Commonwealth Games of next year would be your last event. Is that still the case?
I've decided that I'm not going to the Commonwealth Games to focus on my health. I think I can't kind of ask my body to go for one more year with the way it's been. I barely got to Tokyo, and another year would probably be very, very, very hard to get to. So I've had to make a long-term decision. If Paris is still in my mind, I have to sacrifice something, and that sacrifice is the Commonwealth Games, unfortunately, which is bad because obviously it's on home soil. But yeah, as I said, like I'm not going to make a decision until I know that I'm healthy. If I can get to health.
And that conversation happens in 2 days.
The conversation with the consultant about what route we take now for my health happens in 2 days.
How do you expect that to go down?
I will find out. I'm kind of like a nightmare for consultants because I try to push the boundaries to things they're not really used to. I guess in my head, it's like we have tried everything, and I've only got one more option left, and that's a stoma bag. And if it means that it is a stoma bag, then my career is over. But I accepted that 3 years ago, so it's not going to be a shock. However, that he could give me some hope, but we'll see. To be honest, like if I had to retire tomorrow, I think I'll be proud of what I've done before. But who knows? It might be I'll have another 3 years if I manage to get to health.
And then, what's next for you? I mean, you're pursuing a PhD. You have an app out, which we will talk about. What's on the horizon?
Well, hopefully finish the PhD, kind of graduate, get a doctorate. But yeah, the app is interesting because the app was never really on my horizon. It was kind of an accident for me. I kind of thought about it during lockdown, and I thought about creating the world's first complete fitness app, especially designed for people with disabilities and impairments. like nothing like that exists. And I thought, well, what better person than me to do it? So that's how we came across it. Didn't realize that obviously I'm not a tech person or a business person or entrepreneur or anything. So I've had to learn every day. Quite tough.
What's your PhD in?
So my PhD is in anti-doping in parasport. Yeah, so quite a controversial topic with the kind of Olympic sports, but no data on kind of doping in parasports and how prevalent it is.
What have you found so far?
So I've not done any studies yet. I'm hoping to do my first study early next year to see what the data presents to me. I'm hoping that I can find, data that will inform the kind of policymakers about maybe regulating it better or putting educational programs in, just to make sure that we kind of protect our, elite para athletes.
And how did you end with that? I mean, how did you land there?
What, for the PhD?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously powerlifting throughout my career has been the one sport in the Paralympic Games which has had a lot of negative press due to doping. And ever since I was young, I've always kind of felt that as a sport we can do a lot better. Not just in my sport, but all the para sports in terms of education and just more testing. And I've kind of been doing like my own research for the last like 7 years. And I felt, well, what better way to, instead of speaking out a lot and being controversial, do a PhD and prove it. Because a lot of kind of organizations will ask you to prove it. Where's your data? Where are you getting this from? And I think I thought to myself, well, nobody's going to believe me because I'm just saying it. What about if I potentially prove it? Either way. Obviously the PhD might suggest that I'm wrong, but at least I've done the research to go either way. So yeah, that's why I thought I want to pursue it, just to kind of kind of all the research that I've done the last 7 years. I thought I have to kind of earn something from it in terms of doing something meaningful.
I feel like your entire life has been about proving yourself wrong. Would you agree?
Probably proving myself right, I'd say. I think a lot of people doubt themselves. I don't. I think that I'm very confident in my abilities, because I think my processes are, well, I think they're very, very good. But I think elite sport teaches you to have good processes. I think it's really good to transfer that to life. And I think a lot of people are kind of shocked in terms of my confidence in my process to get things done that are quite challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I think that by anyone's standards, you are a success.
Well, thank you. I think I've got a long way to go yet.
But let's get back to the app for athletes with disabilities. I mean, how did that come to be during lockdown? I mean, what was the step prior to conceptualizing that?
You probably won't believe it, but it came to me in a dream. Yeah, so really weird. During lockdown, I think people have more time to reflect and think, and they've just got more time on their hands, right? And I was just started my PhD, so I was doing a lot of writing and researching and training in my living room because obviously couldn't have access to a gym. And I felt like, so I think I went to bed that night, like my brain was in overdrive. And I always thought to myself, like, when I was growing up, I never asked the question of why don't disabled people go to the gym? I was like, when I was growing up, I was the only one in the gym that was disabled. And I didn't really ask why. I thought, well, is it me just being more adaptable? Are there barriers that are stopping people? I didn't know. And I thought to myself, has things changed in 15 years? And the answer is probably not. They haven't changed. And I kind of had this dream of going into my gym, and there was this disabled person that was struggling in the gym. And I approached her and said, oh, do you need any help? And she said to me, no one can help me, not even you. And then I woke up and I was like, oh my God, she's right. Yeah, and I was like, right, how do I help? So I went online and I thought that, obviously we have loads of the tech industry, like, is so like big now with loads of fitness apps. Like, when it comes to the tech, I think fitness apps make the bulk of the percentage. So I thought to myself, how can I make exercise accessible to disabled people with a kind of without them barriers? How can they gain knowledge, and how can I empower them into kind of pursuing their own exercise journeys? Now, we're not talking about them becoming elite para athletes. We're talking about them becoming healthy human beings, and taking like responsibility for it rather than relying on people that have no clue. So I did my research and I thought, surely there's a fitness app out there for disabled people. Surely, like, someone's come up with the idea, don't be silly, Ali. And then after like 2 hours, and this was like 5 o'clock in the morning, by the way, I thought, wait a minute, there's actually nothing out there like this. I thought, I could do this, couldn't I? If I put my mind into it, because I think I know what the needs are, obviously being disabled. So I called my manager and I said, look, this is my idea. Do you think it's nuts? And he said, oh my God, let's do it. So here we are a year later. And the app got launched 12 weeks ago, and funded it myself. It was all my money. And yeah, I think we've got a product that could definitely change lives.
What's the app? What's the app called?
The app is called Accessercise. So Accessercise. And I came out of that in 2 minutes.
It's amazing how things just come to you. Like, I've had a couple people on who have created apps for various things, and it never feels like there's like an extensive thought process behind it. It's more like, this happened right now and I need to pursue it this instant.
Yeah, it's weird because I knew I wanted to create a fitness app for disabled people, but when it came to the features, I had to actually think about it. So I had to actually sit down and actually go, right, what do I want out of this in terms of, how can we make things accessible? What features can we put in? And the big thing for me was, having kind of video exercises or a catalog of exercises that were performed by somebody of your impairment, just little things like that. Or a community-based section where you kind of update your followers on your fitness journey, or you get to talk to other impairments about exercise in general. And I thought, well, how do we bridge the gap between gyms and disabled people? Well, what about, we have a accessibility rating scale in the app where users can rate their local facilities and gyms in terms of accessibility. So when you're searching for gyms, you go, well, actually, that's 4 out of 5 star. It means it's actually quite good. I want to go there. So actually, you're driving disabled people to gyms, depending on the accessibility of the gym, because they get to rate it themselves. So I knew then features had to be in there for it to kind of work.
Wow, that's incredible.
Well, we'll see. It's only been 12 weeks.
That's still so cool. I mean, anyone who is filling a need like that they are so keenly aware of because they're living it right now, I think that there's no way that they can fail.
Well, you say that, but like, there's been a lot of opinions about how the app, what features should be in the app. And obviously, like, I'm not a multi-millionaire, so I actually am waiting for like investments to make it better. But I think for the budget that I had and with what we produced, we've done pretty well so far, I think.
And how do you, I mean, if I include a link to the app on the App Store, how would you like me to introduce it?
Just, well, it's just we're like world's first fitness app designed for impairments. But unfortunately, at the moment, you can only get it in the UK. But we are branching out to America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia very soon. And I'm hoping, because obviously I was born in Lebanon, obviously Arabic background. We're thinking about the UAE, Dubai, because for me, how do you make meaningful change? Well, you look at the nations that kind of where disabled people have struggled, like socially. A lot of the Arab countries have struggled socially with disability. I think it would be great to get it in like Arabic speaking countries too.
So let's go back to the very beginning of this interview. How do you think your life would be different had your family stayed in Lebanon?
That's a good question. I get that quite a lot. I think with what's kind of happened ever since I've left, it would be pretty bad. You've got like the conflict with Israel, which is on and off. Just don't know when it's going to ignite again. You've got the kind of politics. We've got the government not being really good for the people. Hardly any money, no food, no jobs, no opportunities. And I guess if I stayed, I think my life would have been completely different, probably the opposite. So I'm lucky we got out of there.
I mean, Great Britain is a pretty nice place to live, though, as well. Like,
Yeah, like I'm like so fortunate that we kind of came over here when I was 6 months old, and I think for me it's been the opportunities I've been given here has been incredible, and like, I've been all over the world, and I guess Great Britain is definitely up there in terms of how good they treat disabled people here. Obviously, we've still got a long way to go, and I know people still complain. But if you compare it to other nations, and I've been abroad, trust me, we have one of the best systems in the world. I think we're very, very lucky here.
would you ever live anywhere else? Any other countries?
Yes, Dubai, only because it's warm. I like warm.
And is there anything else as we wrap this up that you wanted to talk about? You think that I missed out on talking about? You wanted to add more information to? I am done with the questions.
No, I think you've asked.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, if there's anything else that you want to include, here's the floor. I'm done with the questions I have to ask, but if there's anything that you think that I missed or you want to talk more about, please tell me right now.
No, all good.
Awesome. So your interview will come out, I think, on Wednesday.
Okay.
If you could just send me a picture that I could use for social media, that would be great. You can either drop it in the chat right now if you have it on hand, or you can send it to me on Instagram or Twitter. And then I'll reach back out once this episode is published.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day. Thanks for making time for me.
My pleasure.